Welcome back to Inside the Mech. We're taking a look at Week 4. We're going to run through the results real quick of what happened in Saturday's ball games. Kent State fell to Florida State 66-10. Bowling Green lost to Louisville 40-17. Miami of Ohio loses a close one 38-41. Wagner loses to Central 49-10. Ball State falls to UConn 25-31. Eastern Michigan with a big win over Louisiana Lafayette 34-31. Buffalo falls to Troy 17-21. Western upsets Toledo 14-13. Ohio beats Gardner-Webb 52-35. Mississippi State beats Northern Illinois 38-10. And Akron with a big 51-7 win. Still battling a bit of a head cold, so you're going to have to deal with me on that department. But I tell you what, there was not a lot of hope that came out of this weekend for the MAC. Here's a couple of the reasons why. I think playoff hopes are all but dashed. Unfortunately, barring any miracles, Memphis obviously 4-0 right now. They're looking good. Some other group of 5 teams are trending up. And teams that were, possibly in contention, Toledo, Ohio, even still Miami of Ohio at this point, well, it's kind of fallen. UNLV is one of those teams trending up in the group of 5. And Miami of Ohio had a chance to take that narrative away and fell 38-41. Toledo obviously losing to Western Michigan, and Ohio, they beat Gardner-Webb, but it wasn't super pretty of a win. You could make some arguments here and there for how that game went, but it is what it is at the end of the day. But going game by game, some thoughts. The Kent State Florida State game 66-10. I mean, that doesn't really change my opinion on Kent State. Florida State, I think, is legit. I do think Florida State's legit, as much as it pains me to say. I'm not the biggest Florida State fan, but good for them. They're turning that program around after a dismal year last year, and they're doing things. And I never expected Kent State to keep this game close ever, and that didn't happen. But they got a score against their ones, so that's something. Louisville Bowling Green game, going into halftime, 21-3. Thought maybe there's hope. Maybe the Falcons can do something, but Louisville kind of ran away with it. And Louisville's not a bad team either. Don't get me wrong there. The UNLV Miami of Ohio game, boy, was that frustrating. And I have yet to see an update on DeQuan Finn, how serious that injury is, if he's back next week, if he's out a couple weeks, if he's out the season. I haven't seen it. Never good when you see an interception thrown. It ended up being a pick six, and you just see him lying on the ground. And it always worrisome. You send prayers up for a guy like that because you don't want to see his season ripped away, and you want him to be okay. I will say, though, that they still kept performing. Henry Hessen came in. He finished the game 8-17, 134, and a touchdown. I didn't think they looked terrible. I thought that, if you watched, that was one of the games I watched through its entirety. And a lot the announcers were so biased to UNLV, which was kind of frustrating. UNLV had a day offensively, but they just acted like, specifically the third quarter. It was at the end of the third quarter, like, well, UNLV has just dominated this half, but it's, still they were, Miami of Ohio was still up 2 scores in the third quarter, and they're dominating, and then UNLV comes out with a huge fourth quarter, 17 unanswered, and, gets the win. It's tough for Miami of Ohio because a lot of things got dashed in that game, but I think it shows the promise, and we finally got to see the offense explode, especially in that first half while Finn was healthy. Another thing that's to take away, Miami of Ohio's defense. They gave 41 points, don't get me wrong, but there was a pick six. There were, short field position a lot of times, but they forced turnovers, and that's something that you can't overlook. And then we go to the Central game over Wagner. They got their FCS opponent and did what they needed to do and got the W, 49-10. Kind of what I expected there, maybe even a little higher scoring than I thought. Ball State was one of the bigger shocks to me. 25-31, they lost to UConn. Caleb Kelly looked pretty good. UConn's not a scrub team by any means, so it's kind of interesting to see that. Didn't expect it to quite go that way, but it did. Then Eastern Michigan with a huge win. And you could say, Louisiana Lafayette came in 1-2. Well, so did Eastern Michigan. And to get the MAC to have more respect, you got to win non-conference, even if that conference is the American, the Sun Belt, Conference USA, you name it. we got to win those games. And Eastern Michigan took care of business in quite an exciting game. The Buffalo-Troy game, boy, was that a heartbreaker one. Troy hadn't scored the entire game. The entire game. It was 14-0 going into the fourth, and then 21-point fourth quarter from Troy to get the win. I'm not sure how to feel about this Buffalo team. I said in the pregame, I was like, I don't think they're overlooking Troy. I think they'll get this win, and it seemed a little bit that way. But they're just so inconsistent and shaky. It's hard to put a lot of stock in this Buffalo group. The game that shocked me the most, though, looking at the Western Michigan Toledo. I said before the game that Western Michigan, to find success, needs to go to just Brock Lowry. They need to only play him and let him do his thing. They did that. They got the win. They took a chance with a 2-point conversion, and it paid off, which was a really cool thing to see. I think there's more questions in Toledo than maybe people thought. And that definitely shocked the nation, and that's kind of the one of those games that's like, that might have taken the sails out of any remote playoff hope. We'll get more into that as the week goes on. And then we look at the Ohio Gardner-Webb game. Ohio took care of business. Kind of like I said, they gave up more points than they probably should have, but there were different guys in the game and things like that. Northern Illinois was hanging with Mississippi State for a while until the second half came around, and then things got ugly. And then Akron just took care of business, showed the offense what it could do. Ben Finley looked better. Gant looked better. They just kind of across the board. And, you could say it was an FCS team. It was an FCS team, but here's the thing in football is you got to win the games you're supposed to win. And with that being said, you got to win them handily and take care of business. And one of my coaches always said, how do you kill an ant? With a sledgehammer, you leave no doubt. Akron left no doubt. And that's how you have to handle those games. Ohio, not that they left any doubt, but they left a little on the table, in my opinion. Going to my power rankings, and this will be posted later today, it was one of the hardest power rankings I had to make just due to the fact of I didn't even know where to rank anything after number one. So it's going to probably be controversial and get some pushback, but we're going to go 1 through 13 here. No change at the top. Ohio still holding on to that number one spot. Then we go Bowling Green, Buffalo, Miami of Ohio, Western Michigan, Toledo, Eastern Michigan, Northern Illinois, Central Michigan, Akron, Kent State, Ball State, UMass. Probably the biggest pushback I'll get here is having Miami of Ohio at 4, having Buffalo at 3, Bowling that top 6 is so muddy, and you could say it any type of way, but you got to put stock into what you're seeing right now. There's always the Toledo got upset. They'll bounce back from this. Well, I thought the same thing about Buffalo. Buffalo didn't get upset, but they were definitely closer in that Kent State game than I thought they should have been, and then they come out and lay an egg. So you got to put stock in what you're seeing. You can't always play for the future because you don't know what the future holds. You know what the present and the past has held. So you kind of have to base it off of that. And that's where it led me to my current rankings. And you can agree, disagree. Honestly, that's what we're all about here in football. We'll have more talks tomorrow, dive a little deeper into some of these games. That's tomorrow on Inside the Mac.